Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the French Tier 5 Premium Tank Destroyer, the M10 RBFM, which is the tank that you can get for 30,000 Regiment coins in the Regiment store. Now if you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the M10 RBFM, it's a pretty solid little Tier 5 tank destroyer. It's got good camo, it's got a pretty damn good gun, it's got a great rate of fire, it's a little bit slow and sluggish, which can be a bit of pain, and you are made of spit and Kleenex. It's basically a premium version of the American Tier 5 Tech Tree Tank Destroyer, the Wolverine, well, because it's the M10 Wolverine RBFM, right? It's the French version. But yeah, it's pretty solid. You can have a lot of fun with this tank destroyer. It's a lot better than the ARMT, which was the previous Regiment tank, because that tank was rubbish. Whereas this tank is actually pretty damn solid to play at Tier 5. You can have a lot of fun with it. Really good tank destroyer. And yeah, it's worth the 30,000 Regiment coins if you had decided you wanted to get it. So where do you get it? Well, it's in the Regiment tab in the store. There it is, 30,000 Regiment coins. Or you can decide to pick up any of the camos that are knocking around. I do like the solid colour camos, like the yellow camo and the red camo. They are pretty cool to pick up, but yeah, you've got the choice of picking up any of this stuff or the M10 RBFM. It's down to you whether you think it's worth that many coins or whether you think the camos are better like that. So the M10 RBFM, let's get into the statistics of it. As you can see, it's got a 48 km/h top speed, a 12 km/h reverse speed, 410 horsepower engine, which is 13.67 horsepower per ton ratio, which means again you do get up to the 48 km/h top speed, but it can be a bit slow and sluggish when it's trying to get there. You've also got a 15% internal fire chance, which is in the middle of fire chances. Now, I haven't really been set on fire in this thing that much, but I do get set on fire a decent amount in the Wolverine, so be careful of that in general. Get hit in the engine bay area, you're likely to get lit on fire. You got 2.3 on soft, 1.3 on medium, and 1.1 on firm. The terrain resistances for this vehicle aren't that great, and they do hold the vehicle back and make it feel that little bit more sluggish indeed. 30 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed is actually pretty decently quick for its tracks, which means it does turn very quickly. But it's got a 16 degree a second turret rotation speed, which is pretty typical of a turreted tank destroyer, that the turret traverse is really slow, and it really does struggle to keep up with the tracks, so be careful of that. You've got 305 metres of still concealment, with 355 metres of on-the-move concealment. But that 355 on the move is really not very good. But you can get the 305 metres of still concealment, which is pretty decent, down to a very good level, around 246, I think it was, or something like that. I've got it down to. We'll see when we get it fully equipped out. 370 metres of view range is very good for a Tier 5 tank destroyer. Tier 5 tank destroyers are usually completely blind, so 370 metres of view range is actually pretty good for this vehicle. 0.59 accuracy during rotation, with a 3.73 accuracy during movement. The rotation accuracy is actually pretty good. The accuracy during movement is atrocious, and it means the aim circle becomes massive as soon as you move this tank. But with a 1.8 second aim time, you do aim in very, very quickly, which is definitely nice for this 3-inch gun M7. You've got 0.37 accuracy at 100 metres, which means, again, this gun can be a little bit derpy at times, but with all the crew perks, stuff like that, you can actually get that gun to be pretty accurate. And the 3.1 second reload is 2.2k DPM, nearly, well, yeah, 2,225 DPM, which is really good. 10 degrees of gun depression, did forget to mention that. 10 degrees of gun depression for this vehicle is very, very good as well. It means you are very flexible on a ridgeline. And again, it is a very much a ridgeline warrior in the fact that it's brilliant for going on those ridgelines, only really exposing the turret, being able to farm, and then the moment you get spotted, you can pull back behind the ridge and get yourself safe, and then get unspotted and carry on farming, right? That's the way that this thing kind of likes to be. Obviously, it can be a bushwookie as well, which is quite good for it. But yeah, you've got a 3.1 second reload, which is very fast, 2.2k DPM, which is nice for a Tier 5 tank destroyer, and again, you'll get that up to a really decent level. 130 pen on the standard AP is good enough for a Tier 5, with 170 pen on the premium APCR, which is great, with 38mm penetration on the HE. The APCR will be good enough to go through most things you're going to face, but you will struggle with some Tier 7 heavy tanks, so do be careful of that. Stuff like a KV3, yeah, you do struggle actually a little bit with tanks like that, so yeah, be careful of that with your M10 RBFM, but naturally, as a Tier 5, you might struggle with Tier 2, plus 2 tiers anyway, right, but you get the point. 792 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP is very slow. It's below average. You have to really give a lot of lead at distance to be able to hit your targets with this gun, and that can lead to this gun feeling even derpier because that shell velocity is poor. And 1037 meters a second shell velocity on the premium APCR is slightly above average, ever so slightly, but you still have to give a decent amount of lead at distance to be able to hit your targets. And once again, because that velocity is just that much better, you do feel a massive difference in it. And generally, the gun handling feels way better on the M10 RBFM when you fire the APCR because that velocity is so much better. But it's still not the greatest velocity for APCR rounds in the universe. And it is a Tier 5 premium. It actually has a 145% silver bonus, which means it actually makes pretty decent silver, this tank. Although, when you end up in a Tier 7 lobby and you have to fire a fair amount of premium, it's not going to make quite as much silver. But there you go. And that's the statistics for the M10 RBFM. Let's have a look at the modules. So that's where the engine bay is for the vehicle. Trust me, if that engine bay gets shot, if any shot enters the back of this tank in those area there, yeah, the engine breaks. The engine does break, so you've got to be careful of that. But again, that's not really that new for any Tier 5 tank destroyer. A lot of the time, if you hit an area where the engine is in most Tier 5 tank destroyers, the engine just breaks. Look at the Nashorn. Oh, no, that's a Tier 6. Look at the Death Toaster. Death Toaster, that's the one. The PZSFL 4C or whatever it is. You shoot that, it breaks its engine. T67 gets its engine broken all the time. You know, all that sort of stuff. And then you look at the ammo block there. If you want to ammo rack this thing, shoot it in this bar here. You are likely to blow its lid off. But because you've only got 500 hit points, it doesn't take long to kill it anyway. And that's where the crew sits in the M10 RBFM. And like I say, armour, it's made of spitting Kleenex, 38mm on the upper plate. The turret front's 57, 63, whatever. Yeah, you can occasionally get a little bit of a ricochet off the turret front, but generally you're not bouncing anything in this tank. And Derp guns love you. 38mm of armour there, and the side armour is only 19mm thick. So any kind of Derp gun hits the M10 RBFM, same as the M10 Wolverine. You blow up. It's as simple as that. You blow up. There is no hope for you if you get hit by a Derp gun, truly. So what kind of crew do I run in this vehicle? Well, I've put it in the bathtub. So let's get it into the M10 RBFM. Faffing. That's what we're doing, faffing. So, in terms of the crew, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Run and Gun, Snapshot, Steady Aim, Camouflage Expertise, and Silent Driving. Silent Driving because that on-the-move concealment is actually really poor on this vehicle, so I want to get it down as low as possible, get it as close to that standard concealment as I can. Camouflage Expertise to get the camo down as low as humanly possible. 10% increase to your vehicle's camouflage is always a key thing for a tank destroyer. Steady Aim, Snapshot, and Run and Gun to get the best out of the accuracy I can humanly get on this vehicle. Because the accuracy during rotation are actually already really good on this vehicle, you could quite easily drop Snapshot on the M10 RBFM and run Rapid Aim to get the turret traverse better, because the turret traverse is appalling. But because it's only a 10% increase, you're probably only actually going to increase your turret traverse by like 1.6 degrees a second or something like that with that, which is not really much at all. So you could instead run something like Muffled Shot or Green Thumb to get better camo while in a bush, or just increase your, or decrease the effect of firing on your camo by 35%. So you could definitely do that as well, because the accuracy during rotation, like I say, is already really good on this vehicle, so that is a bit overkill to run Snapshot, but that's just what I run to make the gun absolutely fabulous. Run and Gun to get the accuracy during movement down as low as possible, because it is atrocious. And Steady Aim to get the best out of the accuracy on this tank, especially since 0.37 is its base accuracy, and that's not the greatest in the universe, so I want to help it out as much as humanly possible. And then in terms of equipment, food as always, because food is just such a massive help. The Advanced Loader, the optics, and the camo net. Camo net to get the best camo I can get out of this vehicle, so we can get that 231 meters of still concealment. Better than I thought it was. 231 meters of still concealment, which is absolutely amazing. The optics to be able to get that 473 meters of view range, so that we can at least spot for ourselves, and especially with having the fantastic camo, it means we can spot people at greater distances, and then also farm them for longer before they actually eventually spot us, which is lovely. And the Advanced Loader to get the best out of the DPM on the M10 RBFM. So let's have a look at the statistics now it's fully equipped out. So as you can see, we've not really helped the top speed whatsoever. The ground resistances have stayed Well, I've got a little bit better because of Born Leader and stuff like that. We've not helped the hull rotation, so that's the same. But we've now got 231 metres of still concealment, which is fantastic. 250 metres of on-the-move concealment, which is a lot better than it was, which means that you can sneak into position quite easily with the M10 RBFM. 473 metres of view range, which means you spot for yourself very, very well. 17.38 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed, because again, stuff like Born Leader helps it a little bit. So the turret does turn a little bit faster, but it's still incredibly slow. 0.36 accuracy during rotation is absolutely immense, and that's why I say you could possibly just get away without running snapshot, because even without the snapshot, it's probably still in the 0.4 region, so yeah, you could quite easily drop snapshot. With 2.66 accuracy during movement, which is still not very good, and your aim circle will bloom out quite a bit when you move the tank, but not as badly as it did. And with a 1.66 second aim time, you get aimed in very, very quickly on the M10 RBFM, which is great. And a 0.3 accuracy at 100 metres, which is a hell of a lot more accurate than the 0.37 it was. And generally means when you get this gun fully aimed in, and you get the right amount of lead, you will hit your target most of the time. Except for obviously when RNG giveth and RNG taketh. And especially when RNG taketh. A 2.26 second reload is 3052 DPM, which is absolutely immense for a tier 5 tank destroyer, and it means it absolutely farms, and this thing can rack up damage so quickly if you have it in a very good tank destroyer position. Generally, the M10 RBFM is very, very nice. So what's it like compared to its tier 5 compatriot, which is the M10 Wolverine, which is, you know, basically the same tank, but in non-premium version. So, as you can see, the penetration is 2 worse on the standard, but on the premium, it's 7 better. The alpha's the same at 115. You've got less hit points, same view range, same mobility, same camo. Let's have a quick look at the reload. 2.41 second reload on the M10 Wolverine, which means that the M10 RBFM actually has better DPM. It's got better accuracy. The aim time's slightly better on the M10 Wolverine than it is on the M10 RBFM. Your accuracy during rotation is worse on the M10 Wolverine. Your accuracy during movement is 2.73. Is that better or worse? That's worse than the M10 RBFM. 0.3 accuracy on the M10 RBFM is actually better than the M10 Wolverine. I think we're getting to a point here where we're looking at this going, yeah, the M10 Wolverine just isn't as good. It's got better horsepower per ton ratio because it's got a better horsepower engine, which means this tank is actually more mobile than the M10 RBFM. But generally, the M10 RBFM is actually a lot better than the Wolverine, which means that, yeah, it's just a very nice tank to play. So if you like the Wolverine, you will love the M10 RBFM. The only good thing, well, I'd say the only thing that's good for the M10, the M10 RBFM, there's a lot of M10s going off. The thing that's good for the Wolverine that the M10 RBFM doesn't get is its derp gun. And as you know, derp is love, derp is life. And yeah, that makes the Wolverine exponentially better than the RBFM. It doesn't, but it does for me. You know what derp guns do to me, okay? But I digress. So the M10 RBFM is just generally a better version of the Tech Tree Wolverine, and you can get it for 30,000 Regiment coins in the Regiment section of the store. So, what we're going to do now is send you into the replays, where you can watch this tank in action, see how it handles, and just see if it's a bit of you or not. So as everybody, I'll see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the M10 RBFM, and this first game, was that guy called Max Penetrator? Oh boy. Oh boy. Great start. So, we're on Ruinberg, and on Ruinberg we are going to go up towards the 0 line, because from there we can try and shoot down the pathways. Anyone that tries to poke across the mid-ridge as well at E7-8, we can try and get shots into them and just use the camo that we have to stay unspotted while using the bush lines over here. And also it means that I'm not being too aggressive, because my problem when I play this map at times is I can be a little bit too aggressive. I can try and fight the mid-ridge, and then all you find is that people YOLO straight over, don't really take any hits from your team, and then murder you, and it doesn't go too well. So sometimes it pays to be that little bit more cautious, and especially in a tank like this, which is made of spit and Kleenex, yeah, it's just easier to not be the one to be taking those hits. So we're trying to hit the KV-2's turret right now in the weak spots, but it's not quite working out. So we switched to the Firefly, because we should be able to pen a Firefly, whereas the KV-2, if we'd been firing premium and firing the 170 pen rounds, not the 130 pen rounds, We would have probably been going through the turret of the KV-2 there, but well, it is what it is. I'm just trying to move up to get better shots at those guys if they were to get spotted up. Plus, there was someone spotted at E6, so that might give me an easier shot as well. But we spot this Chaffee moving in, so we get 1 or 2 shots into the Chaffee, and unfortunately for me, he gets away just as we fire that final shot. But the KV-85 ends up finishing him off. Look where our team is in the town. Our team is really advanced, and they've not really found anyone, which means that a lot of their team must be in this field. So we've just got to be mindful of that and note that, yeah, there's either going to be a lot of people down this 0 line, or there's going to be a lot of people camping at the back at A67, so I've got to be careful when I poke out around the back of this house. So the T1 Heavy gets spotted. I'm trying to back up to get into a better position to farm this guy through the bush if he was to drive out. But in fact, he does drive out, and I didn't expect him to do it as much there. But I have faith in my camo to be able to stay unspotted if he was to give me better shots. Because our camo is just that good on this vehicle, it really is. So we park up in the bushes, see the Wolverine, put a shot out, and we actually got spotted. Now, I didn't expect to get spotted there as I shot at that Wolverine, and we take a hit for half of our hit points there from something at the back, which is not the best thing in the universe, but there we go. And now we've got unspotted, we can go after Mr. T1 Heavy. Oh, okay, gun, come on now, I said you were a pretty nice gun. There we go, we've started penetrating the shot. Oh, we're failing to penetrate our shot. We really need a max penetrator. Where is max penetrator? We need him right now so we can get there. It's starting. No, who needs max penetrator? We don't need him anymore. We're starting to go through these guys quite easily, except for we're trying to find a pixel shot here on the Wolverine. And you can see, again, the gun isn't the most pixel shotty gun in the universe. It's not going to find that absolute accurate monster shot that's going to hit the thinnest part of a tank. It doesn't do that. But if someone does drive out into your gun line, as you've already seen a little bit, yeah, you can farm away. So Mr. Nashorn gets spotted. And Mr. Nashorn is in a bad place as we can start farming him up. We end up breaking his engine with that shot. Notice artillery, and we were always going for the bacon. Always shooting the bacon first. Mr. Nashorn, yeah, we could shoot Mr. Nashorn later if he was still alive. But we always wanted the bacon. So the Type 64 drives sideways on. Struggling to get past the dead wreck of the artillery, so we just keep the shots flowing, and we're up to 1,527 damage with 537 assistance damage, and there's only one tank left. It's Mr. WZ131 GFT. Sadly, that shot misses again. It goes straight past. We should have just waited that extra split second to be able to aim in the shot in, and we'd have got the shot into that WZ131. But we missed out on any more damage because we rushed it. And again, I think you saw in that game, the gun being that little bit derpy, it does like to miss at times, so you've got to be careful of that. Finished with the Confederate Medal, the second class, with the 1256 base XP. Max penetrator in second! Let's go! Well played. What a name. What a dude. What can we say? Giggity. Yeah, that's what we can say. So, we're on to the second replay here, and the second replay we're here on this map, which is Vineyards, and we're really hoping that in this game the gun behaves itself, because like we saw in the last game, like I say, the gun isn't the best thing in the universe. It doesn't hit those teeny tiny pixel shots, but what it does do is farm hard, and it can be very consistent when you sit in those positions that are very tank destroyer-esque locations where you can just start farming away. And when you get those farming situations, it's where the M10 RBFM truly shines. And you're probably going to see that in one of these replays. So here on Vineyards, I've come to the position here at AB5 because I can shoot people like that Nashorn over there that I can get shots at. Once again, first shot misses. Sad times. But we do get one into him. Hopefully get another one in before he drops down below the ridge. But we got spotted there. And I didn't think the Nashorn was in a position where he would be able to see me, to be fair. So I feel like there's something else possibly in that field that is the one that is lighting me up. I didn't want to be too aggressive when pushing down the A-line here on Vineyards, because if I was too aggressive, the likelihood is if I went to A6 and they sent a fair few people here, it was going to go pretty badly, and I just didn't want to die too soon. Because we only have 500 hit points. You have to be very, very careful when you've got that little hit points. As you saw in the last game, we only took one hit and we had only half of our hit points left. Because Mr. Nashorn said, hello, you know I have about 280 alpha now these days, I think the Nashorn has. And so, yeah, one hit can change the game for you and change how careful you have to play this vehicle. Because you do have that low hit points, which is a very typical tier 5 tank destroyer thing. Because, I mean, if you look at the S35CA, which is the bathtub, which is your French compatriot at tier 5, it's got 460 hit points. So, yeah, it's even less, right? And that's just the way it is. So you do have to play a lot more careful when you play these kinds of tank destroyers, because only taking one hit can mean you are boned. But there we go. So we have pushed up to be a bit more aggressive now, and that is we're trying to get up to get side shots into this BZ58. Now I've kind of realised, oh boy, this guy's got a fairly easy shot at me if I'm not careful. Thankfully, he manages to hit the floor, and I'm just trying to manoeuvre myself into a better position to stay safe from him. But I realise I'm getting spotting damage. I'm like, what am I getting? It's the hammer in the middle of the map. Now, that's quite fortunate that that guy never actually shot at me, because I could have quite easily lost a lot of hit points from, or 280 to be precise, from that hammer. Could have quite easily lost 280 hit points from him if he decided to shoot me there, and I was completely unaware that I even had shots at him, or he even had shots at me. But thankfully, I was the one spotting him, because that view range of 473 was enough to see him, and so we got 1277 spotting assist, which we'll take. So we're just trying to find shots into Mr. BZ58 here. We finally get the shot in to finish off that tier 7 heavy tank, which is always nice getting the kill on tanks 2 tiers higher. Managed to snap the shot into the gorilla there, securing a Pascucci's medal, which we'll take. Again, we like Pascucci's. Bacon. Bacon. It's all about that bacon. And the light tank that's over in the distance at G9 is actually lighting up their TDs that are camping on their TD hill at G9, which is great, because that means that from here we should be able to farm them without getting spotted ourselves. Now, we switched to premium here for this VK3601H, because the standard AP is not quite enough for going through this guy, whereas the APCR, the 170 pen, will do. But now he's turned his side on, we can actually pen him with 130, so I switched back to the AP. And that's because round problems, round count problem. Nah, Willow Rot, really. You can see me, I was looking to snap my shot onto somewhere else, and I was shocked that I didn't kill that dude, but there we go. But round problems. Look how many rounds we've got. Because of how fast this tank fires, you run through your ammo count very, very quickly, which means you have to manage your ammunition if you decide to not fire full gold, which I bet a few people will. And that's because if you fire too much of your APCR, you'll run out, and then you'll be left with 130 pen. With 130 pen, I'm going to struggle to go through something like that is directly in front of us, the tier 7 British tank destroyer, the AT-15A. 170 pen should go through that guy, but that will struggle a little bit. 130 pen will really struggle, and I won't go through him whatsoever in the front or even the side bounces quite a bit. So we've got to be managing our ammunition. So when that VK3601H turned his sideways on, I knew that I could pen the side with AP, so I switched back to the AP rounds. But he got unspotted, so it didn't matter. We missed our shots anyway. But hey-ho. Just explain the decision process on the ammunition switch. There's only 3 tanks left on the enemy team, which is the 2 tank destroyers and the light tank. We're up to 1260 damage, 1277 assistance. Fairly average game so far for any kind of tier 5 tank. With the 1375 YOLOing about in the middle and the ARL V39 and the AT-15A in this corner, we can be assured that we're going to get a little bit more damage, but we do have to be careful because, well, it is 10-3, but there's only 3 of us currently going after these 2 tank destroyers, which means that if they were to knock one of us out, it could turn the tide pretty quickly, and, well, we won't get any more damage, and that's the key here. So we laid the APCR round so that we can get some shots into the AT-15A. Looking for that cupola shot, which we get 1 in. We were looking to get the second one in, but it ricochets. And that's why I'm saying the 170 pen can be a bit awkward at times. The AT-15A is starting to YOLO us, so I decided, okay, I'm going round this guy. We switch back to AP so that we get the tracking shot a little bit easier and we're not wasting APCR rounds. We finally track him in place and do the thing that you do when you go around turretless tank destroyer and go, haha, but we should have switched back to APCR rounds. Because as you can see, 130 pen, even against the side of the AT-15A, was doing nothing. So the reason I didn't switch, though, in the first place was because I penned the first shot. I then didn't pen it anymore. And I sat there going, eh? Really? Okay, then. So we didn't get any more damage on that guy, but we did get tracking assist, and we finished the game with 1623 damage, the 2083 assistance damage, 1750 base XP. Really nice game there for the M10 RBFM in a tier 7 lobby, which, again, showed the upsides, showed the downsides of the tank. Again, the gun can be derpy at times. The penetration, depending on the tier, can let you down, which can be a bit frustrating. but if you do get into a good farming location, you can, all of a sudden, damage goes from nothing to a pretty good amount very fast. So we're on to the third replay, and this third replay, we're here on this map, which is Serene Coast. South Coast isn't even the game still. It's Serene Coast. So on Serene Coast, in a Tier 7 lobby, so again, the worst matchup we could see, we're going to go to the position at D1 so that I can shoot down the 1-2 line. And again, as people get spotted as they come up that way, it should be a nice free farm. And with our pretty good camo at 231 meters of still concealment, firing through concealment, we should be a struggle to get spotted, which should. RNG giveth, RNG taketh, right? Sometimes you just get spotted and you sit there going, but why? Usually when you get spotted and you don't know why, there's a tank somewhere else that actually can see you that's currently unspotted, right? That's usually the most logical explanation, but there we go. So, our light tank is pushing aggressively down the 1 line. He spots the KV-3 and the other light tank, but I decided to ignore the light tank and go after the KV-3. 130 pen is, even at this distance, is going to struggle because he's at nearly 500 meters, and the penetration of the AP round is 112 instead of 130 at 500 meters. Looking at it, this tank suffers horrendous penetration drop-off over distance. Because your standard AP dropping from 130 to 112 is quite significant for a standard AP round. And your premium APCR drops from 170 pen to 135, which is why we were really struggling at distance to go through the KV-3. Because, sure, we thought we had 170, but we actually only had 135 pen, which is going to struggle with the KV-3. So, this could definitely be a candidate for Iron Mace instead of Snapshot, to be fair. Because with Iron Mace, you go up to 117 pen at 500 meters, which is only 5 better, to be fair, which is not actually that great. But you go up to 145 pen instead of 130 on the premium APCR. So that's actually a rather large difference, to be fair to it, which could help you to be able to go through tanks like KV-3 a little bit easier at distance. But it's still, you don't gain quite as much penetration back. But there we go. If you ever consider trying to take Iron Mace, you really want to be looking at the penetration value at 500 meters, because some of these tanks have very little difference between their ammunition penetration at 500 meters as opposed to 100. And Iron Mace is only really useful on vehicles that have really big differences. But there we go. I digress. Just something that I noticed looking at that. That's a rather large drop-off and would explain why we were struggling with the KV-3. So, as you can see, we're in a nice little farmy location. We're up to 1,500 damage so far with 903 assistance. We did take a rather large hit from getting spotted earlier on, and it is currently 7-7, which means the teams are fairly equal. So we're just going to look for shots into the T25/2. We get one shot in. I don't need the APCR for this T25/2, so we switch to the AP. Once again, controlling how much we're firing of each round so that we're not going to run out of a round that will be useful for later on. But the T25/2 is clearly no idiot. He knew that I was shooting him from this direction, so he stayed hidden where I couldn't shoot him, behind the buildings, and managed to get unspotted so I can't hit him anymore. I'm just watching what my TDs are doing over at B5, because they're the ones that are going to spot that T25/2 again, so I can possibly get shots. We try and go for the shot into his side, but we just don't lead it well enough. And again, we don't lead it well enough, which means we ricocheted off his side with the first one. The second one didn't even hit, and that was just poor lead, to be fair. There's nothing else I can blame for that. If we'd led it a little bit better, we would have hit those shots. The Black Prince is now driving out sideways on, so we go for the shot into the side of the Black Prince, but it ricochets off of his turret side. And once again, with the standard AP rounds, especially at the 500 meters we nearly are, we're just not going to have that penetration. That's the penetration drop off over distance, really not helping us again. Because penetration of drop off over distance, like I say, can be a big hidden factor that people think. Take the GSOR 1008, like I've said in the past, even in that video for that vehicle. That penetration drop-off on its premium round is insane. You think, I've got 321 pen on the premium, I'm going to go through everything with that. And then you're firing at 500 meters where you might want to be in a GSOR, where you can stay unspotted, and you're bouncing off the side of something like an E75, sitting there going, but why am I bouncing off an E75? I've got 321 pen, I shouldn't be bouncing this. But really, it's because you've got 218 pen at 500 meters. So the pen drop-off is insane, and you just didn't know. And that's something that can affect a lot of games, but that's where I say you really want to look at the penetration drop-off, because it's not something that affects a lot of tanks. Because, yeah, there's quite a few tanks that have very little difference between the two, so Iron Mace does basically nothing anyway. You know, you've really got to just look at those statistics before you take a skill like Iron Mace, which means it's an edge case kind of skill, right? It's one of those that you take sometimes for some vehicles, but most vehicles it doesn't really do anything for. So we managed to get up behind the SU-100M1. We got a few shots into him, which distracted him from my teammates, and now we're going after Mr. M41 HMC. Put 2 shots into him to finish him off, getting ourselves the Pascucci's medal, putting us onto 2.4k damage, 903 assistance. The SU-100M1 should get shut down by the Tiger 1, and finish with a really nice game there for the M10 RBFM on the victory on Serene Coast. With those 2 kills, 2.5k damage, a bit of assistance as well, 63k with the first class, 1839 base XP. Really nice game there for the M10 RBFM. Just showing what it's capable of if you keep it in that farmy location and just watch as the damage really racks up. So now we're on to the 4th and final replay of this video, the best game I've had in this tank, and we're lovingly top tier, which means we're going to have a great amount of fun. So what I want to do on Swamp is go to a position like C7, because from C7 I should be able to spot anyone that tries to cross up the 0 line, get assistance damage if anyone's in position to shoot them, but also be able to absolutely farm them up myself with this vehicle. The only problem is, as you can see with the M10 RBFM, it is a little bit slow, it is a little bit sluggish. We're only going at about 31 kilometers an hour, 32 kilometers an hour here. If we want to gain some speed, we're going to have to go down some sort of incline. And that means that when you're trying to do something like what we're going to do here, which is try and cut off people as they climb up the 0 line, quite a few times, because we're just too slow to get there, people will have already got themselves up the 0 line, and that can make it a little bit awkward. Especially when we've got a setup like we've got here with this team, where nobody's gone up the hill for our team, and a lot of our team have gone down the 1-2 line, so if people have gone up the hill already, and we've missed them, they will start farming us from B9 if we're not careful, and it's pretty awkward to actually get away from this spot here at C7 if they take the hill and start shooting you from B9. Usually you don't really get away, which can be pain, but there we go. So nothing's been spotted. We haven't seen anything, no idea if anything made it up the hill, so we're just going to be aggressive. And by being aggressive, we end up finding the Matilda. We fire, and the Matilda actually ends up spotting us. Or we assume it's the Matilda that sees us. There could be also something else over there near. Don't waste coffee. An important message from our sponsor. Don't waste coffee. He's got a point. He's got a point. Anyway, we found a Hetzer. We've now found an SU-85 in their TD Campy spot as we move forward a little bit, and clearly they got spotted as they fired. So we're just going to make the most of getting rid of that SU-85. Now I'm going to move up to try and get to the ledge at G8. But in fact, as we move forward, we find a Death Toaster, the PZSFL-4C. We break his engine. Like I say, if you shoot that thing in the hull, you will break the engine. And then we find a Wolverine as well. We found their TD nest, and we got rid of the nest just like that. I didn't expect to find that many people there, to be honest. But as you can see, again, when you get in this farmy situation, the tank just racks up damage. It fires so fast. It's almost like the blink of an eye. Just how fast the damage really does rack up in this vehicle. And if people don't react to you firing at them, yeah, you're going to take away quite a bit of their hit points before they even realise what's happening. So they've got 2 artillery. And I'm pretty sure I know where one of the artillery is already, because we've seen the shell tracer fly over. We look at what they are, M41 HMC and a Grilla, which means I should be able to pen them with my HE round, which has 38mm of penetration. It's not the best HE round in the universe, but it's going to be good enough to hit them for 185, and it should go through, especially Grilla's superstructure, but also the superstructure of the M41 HMC. So we end up breaking the track there, which means that we managed to farm up the M41 HMC and finish him off for our 4th kill of this game. It's 2.5k damage, 384 assistance, and I'm pretty sure I know where the other artillery is going to be. It's the Grilla, and he's going to be at K78, because I'm pretty sure once again I saw one of the shell tracers. Could also hear it in my earphone as well. I could hear the shell tracer fly from my left-hand side when I was aiming down the sight. So I'm pretty sure he is actually going to be here at K78. I've just got to get there and hope that I can either track him or kill him before he turns his gun on me. So we go for the shot there into the griller. We managed to get the tracking shot in that time. We're just controlling our speed, so the aim circle is always on the griller. And we finish off the second artillery of the game there for our 5th kill for 3,070 damage, which is an insane score so far for a tier 5 tank. And there's only 2 tanks left on the team. The T28 that we saw back there and the bathtub. Unfortunately for us, the T28 managed to get 2 shots in. We try and blind fire the T28, but no dice. We don't hit that T28 whatsoever, so we're just going to close the distance and try and get there to try and spot them before they spot us, because we should do with 473 meters of view range and such good camo. Unless they've set up in a similar fashion, we should still probably outspot them anyway, because we'll have better camo and view range than the T28. The bathtub is a concern though, because the bathtub has amazing camo, and if he has that 105mm gun on it and he's firing APCR, we are a one-shot for the bathtub, so that's not as good a point. But hey ho, we're going to try our best to just get a little bit extra damage. If we could pick up 2 more kills, that would be a wonderful time, and we'll have an insane game here on our hands. So there's a TD closing in from H3, H2, which means that they're either going to find the T28 and I'm going to have 3 shots at the T28, or we're going to find the T28 and we've got help if he comes after us. But clearly the T28 is now being engaged by the TD, and the roundabout finishes off the T28. So there's only 1 tank left. It's Mr. Bathtub. I was pretty sure I knew where he was. We hit the floor because, well, the gun likes to derp. Trying to go for that drive wheel to track him in place. I know I can take a hit at this point. With that shot there that I put into the bathtub, I knew I was always going to kill him before he killed me, because my DPM is just that good. And we finished the game with a really nice total there for the M10 RBFM. We finished with the 6 kills, the 3.6k damage, 384 assistance damage, ace tanker, Dimitrius, top gun high caliber for 2.3, nearly 2.4k base XP. Amazing game for the M10 RBFM there, and that's the tank that used to be the recruiter reward, but barely anyone actually used that system, and only a fair few people had it. And so now it's a tank that you can get through 30,000 regiment coins from the regiment store. So that's the M10 RBFM. Basically a better Wolverine, and it's a pretty damn solid tier 5 tank destroyer. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!